Hey everybody, day one of the Bill of Rights here. Just want to go through quick things on the PowerPoint. We talked about the Articles of Confederation in the last chapter. Just moving in, just kind of reviewing where were some of the weaknesses, and you guys can look at them here. A single house, very weak central government, power rested within the states, no power to tax, 13 of 13 votes, any major laws. It was 9 of 13 states had to approve it. Congress could not regulate commerce. Provide competition among the states. So a lot of problems with that. The United States Constitution was a big ordeal during this time. Government was originally established, was a republic. Elected officials were elected directly by the people. But the president, senators, and governors were elected by the Electoral College. Separation of powers, legislative, executive, judicial, checks and balances was a big thing. And the judicial branch, which comes in to make sure laws are appropriately enforced in 1789 under the Judiciary Act. Federalism, there's going to be two levels of government, the federal and the state governments. And in order to this, we talked a little about this, the Federalists versus the Anti-Federalists. The Federalists wanted the necessary and proper and elastic clause approved. And we talked about this in the Federalist versus Anti-Federalist PowerPoint. And the two different political parties kind of lobbied to, what's going to happen, how's it going to happen. And basically what happens is the Anti-Federalists said, we will vote for the Constitution and the southern states will vote for the Constitution if you guys, number one, move the capital to Washington, D.C., but also approve these 10 Bill of Rights that we want. So in fact, James Madison, who was a Federalist, Thomas Jefferson comes and says, you got to do these things. James Madison writes the first 10 Bill of Rights, because of this, and introduces it to the first United States Congress on August 24, 1789. It's going to be ratified and passed in 1791, December 15th. Out of the 13 states, 3/4 of the states agreed, and eventually all are going to ratify the Bill of Rights. But it was basically the political parties pulling for and against. So Thomas Jefferson really was a big proponent to getting James Madison to believe and pass these things. James Madison didn't really want the Bill of Rights. He was a Federalist, but he passes them because he wanted the Anti-Federalists to sign on to the Constitution. So it was a divvying up thing, a pushing and pulling thing. The Federalists didn't want the Bill of Rights. The Anti-Federalists wanted the Bill of Rights. They wanted individual rights for people, for farmers, for lower class people. Federalists didn't. So they end up being passed. And here's our first 10 Bill of Rights, which each and every one of you should know. I'm going to read the original version, and then the second version is going to be the shortened version of it. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So what do you think this means? Very simple. It's our 5 individual freedoms. The government cannot establish a religion, favor a religion, or interfere with religious freedom. Freedom of speech and press without being punished by the government. Assembly, people cannot assemble with anyone they want, wherever they want. People can assemble, unless it's for violence. You can't do it for violence. Freedom of speech and press is illegal unless you are slandering somebody's name or posting something false or saying something false about somebody. And any establishment of religion, if you wanted to worship a chair and you got a teacher to abide by that club and the principal to approve it, you could have a chair worshiping club in school. Kind of interesting. Like I said, assembly, you can do this anywhere you want as long as it's approved that it's not has to do with violence. Petition, you can get together as a cause and go against a grievance and start a petition that's going to be considered with a certain number of signatures. Amendment number 2, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So what is this one saying? A lot of people misinterpret this one in a lot of different ways. In 1791, we were so scared that our government was going to overthrow us that we had a well-regulated militia that run the Revolutionary War. So we were so scared that giving power to the federal government would turn on us. We said, we still want to have a militia and we want to have a free state. If there's a security to the free state, we have to have a militia. Therefore, people have to have arms and able to protect our state. And that's what that one's really saying. It doesn't say anything about hunting in here or doing all these other things. The controversy of this one is a lot of people say, well, the times have changed. And they have. It's not 1791 anymore. We don't have a well-regulated militia. Okay? We're pretty certain that our federal government would crush us if they would turn against the people, no matter how many guns we had. Okay? So a lot of people, that's the scrutiny against that one. But a lot of people on the other side would say, well, if you take our guns away and you take our protection away, then we can be controlled very easily. So there's two sides to that one. Okay, it's a big controversial issue. Each state will have its own military, and each person has the right to bear a gun. Third Amendment, this one really shows the age of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, 1791. No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in the manner to be prescribed by law. So basically what this one is saying is the government is not allowed to house troops in people's homes during peacetime without their approval or during wartime except as prescribed by law. So if the Capitol building, if a military base got attacked and they couldn't go there anymore and we were at war and it got approved, okay, they could come into your house and say, hey, we want to use this as a military base. But if we were in peacetime, they absolutely couldn't. This is what happened during the Revolutionary War. The Second Amendment is what happened during the Revolutionary War. We were scared against the king. This one, we were scared against the redcoats coming over again, or another nation, or the military taking away our homes, even our military taking away our homes, us feeding them. So we created the Third Amendment. It shows its age. Okay, the Second and Third Amendment really show the age. Fourth Amendment, the right of the people to secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue, but upon probable cause, here's a big portion of this one, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. This is an interesting one. Take a look at this. The government must have a very good reason or evidence in order to search someone's house. The government must have a warrant. This means that a judge has looked at the warrant and issued a formal order for the search. So the government can do one of two things. A very good reason means probable cause. If a police officer comes into your car, he smells marijuana or alcohol on you, he can search your car, okay? If he suspects there to be anything in your car, they can search the car. Now, what if he's wrong and you're unreasonable? Okay, it's an unreasonable search or seizure, then that's a violation of the Fourth Amendment, and you can sue. Now, the thing is that cops are very good about this. If they are unsure, they will bring the K-9 unit. If the K-9 unit signals them, that dog's nose is just like a police officer. Dogs, German Shepherds, are just like police officers. I saw a demonstration on this, and K-9 unit, I knew the police officer that did this very well, and he said, you walk into the house and your mom's making stew, you smell, you know your mom's making stew. A police officer, a K-9 unit dog, a shepherd, walks in the house and he goes, mom's making stew. Well, there's tomatoes, potatoes, onions, celery, carrots, green beans, everything. He would know every single thing and ingredient that's in that stew. Okay, that's how good of a smell they have. So when they signal a police officer, they're right. They know it is, and that gives them the cue to go in. Okay, and I get a lot of questions about this one. If you have any questions about the Fourth Amendment, please let me know. This is a big one. This is a big one when it comes to uncertain, violent, different things that happen in the United States of America at this point in time. Now, if a police officer is in hot pursuit, he can go in through anybody's house. Hot pursuit means chasing a victim that's fleeing from a crime. Okay, they can go through anybody's yard and search anything. Okay? Another one I give for this. What if you're sitting in the car and your friend has drugs on them and you throw it on this floor? Well, the police officer sees it. He pulls both of you out. Both of you are charged with the crime until somebody confesses of that crime of possessing it. So be very careful of who you're with, especially at college parties. Same thing. If there's drugs on the table at a college party, you're in it, and nobody confesses to the crime. Every single person in that house gets charged with the crime. Okay? Same crime until somebody confesses up. Fifth Amendment. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on the presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb. Nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property, John Locke, without due process of law. Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. They were very concerned in 1791 about this stuff. The first one, grand jury clause. You cannot be charged with a serious federal crime unless you have been brought to trial by a grand jury. A grand jury is certain people that are brought in to investigate somebody for committing a serious federal crime. Jerry Sandusky case. He was walking around while they were investigating him until they got enough evidence and witnesses to bring him to court with the definitive case that he was going to be guilty. They have to review it and the facts of the crime. Now, if you're in the military, you beat to a different drum. Okay, they can call you in without the necessary evidence against you. Double jeopardy. You cannot be tried twice for the same crime. If I murder somebody, okay, and I am not guilty of that crime, all right, and I go to trial and they find me not guilty, I cannot be brought back and tried again for that same crime. I always tell my kids about the movie Double Jeopardy. It's on Netflix. If you're going to watch it, it is rated R, so be aware of that. There are some violent things in it and other things. But basically what happens is the husband basically sets his wife up, and they go on this yacht. The husband's very rich, and the wife, he drugs his own wife. There's bloody footprints going off the boat. Okay, she wakes up, doesn't know where she's at. She calls in police and says, my husband's gone. There's bloody footprints. There's a knife with her fingerprints on it. She's basically guilty of that crime. They convict her of murder. She goes away to prison. She serves her time. Okay, she says she's not guilty. She serves her time in a plea bargain. She gets out here to come to find that her husband left her for her best friend. Okay, well, now technically she's already been convicted of that crime. So what can she do? Well, technically under the double jeopardy clause, she can go out and go after her husband, okay? Which is pretty crazy. I mean, it is a movie, but you can't be convicted of the same crime twice. Number 3, self-incrimination. You do not have to testify against yourself in criminal events. You can choose to remain silent or plead the fifth, okay? So be aware of that. You can plead the fifth. Due process. That means if a police officer questions you and you're involved in the crime, you can say, I plead the fifth, or if you committed the crime, you can say, I plead the fifth. Anything that you say can and will be held against you in the court of law. So you will be recorded, so be very aware that you have that opportunity to plead the fifth. Due process. The government must obey all written laws whenever it deals with people. If you are arrested and they do not read you your rights before you go to jail, or you're not aware of what you're being charged with, you can get off on any single thing that you do. They have to do that. They're very good with that. And eminent domain. This is a big problem in the 1800s with the train and the railroads. If the government needs to take your property for some public use, they must pay you a reasonable amount in compensation for what it's worth. The Sixth Amendment. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by a jury by an impartial jury of the state district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall not have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in favor, and to have the assistance for counsel in his defense. What does this one mean? You have a right to a speedy trial, accused and know all the charges against him. You can question and obtain witnesses, and if you do not have a lawyer, they will provide you with one. Seventh Amendment. In suits at common law, this was an old English term for the court system, wherein the value in controversy shall exceed $20. The value now is $5,000. The right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States, and according to the rules of the court system. Does this one mean? This guarantees you a jury trial in most civil cases. If you sue somebody and it's over $5,000, you have a right to go to a jury trial. Now, if it's under $5,000, you're probably going to see a district magistrate, something like Judge Judy. Be aware of that. Eighth Amendment. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. Okay? Prohibits excessive bail and fines. If I kill somebody, bail should be $1 million. If I get a DUI, bail should not be $1 million. Excessive bail. Prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. We were scared of things like being hanged and public dissecting back then in 1791. This prohibits cruel and unusual punishment in the court system. Ninth Amendment. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed or deny or disparage any others retained by the people. People have other basic rights in addition to those mentioned in the Constitution, like human rights. Okay? The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited to by the states are reserved to the states respectively or the people. Rights not given to the federal government nor denied to the states are reserved to the states. The states have rights.